company, they said the same thing about Kevin Nash. I still think Nash is around. Nash will be back. I think Lesnar is back long term because, as I mentioned here previously last week on the show, Lesnar's UFC career ended sooner than what he wanted and would have liked for it to have ended. So with nothing for Lesnar to do competitively, the WWE really is his only option. So I see Lesnar staying there full time. And I hope that Paul Heyman has cleared up all of his personal issues because it will allow Paul Heyman to have a good business relationship with the WWE, something he hasn't had in over half of a decade. The treatment of ECW, how Heyman was given a leave of absence and never seen or heard from again, only on the internet when he used it as an open forum for things like Heyman's Hustle on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to shoot on various issues. Google it and find out additional information on this show. It is very influential and something that took the wrestling world by total surprise, and Paul Heyman quickly gained a reputation for being one of the biggest shooters on the internet when it came to professional wrestling, and one of the most highly demanded guests on different radio shows, and those who were really fortunate enough to interview the host of Heyman's Hustle and the father of ECW. Boy, did you ever strike gold, in my opinion. Heyman being at the side of Brock Lesnar, it seems like an obvious conclusion for everybody to jump to, but you have to look at the variables that could play a significant role in the outcome of Lesnar's return. The treatment of ECW, how Heyman was treated himself, and how he had some bad business relationships derived from ECW with people like Sabu and C.W. Anderson, who referred to Paul Heyman as a liar. Gary Wolf was another one who referred to Heyman as a liar. So I really see a lot of those factors playing a significant role as to whether or not if Heyman will indeed return. Now, he did comment on Brock Lesnar's return to the WWE. I believe it was in one of his blogs that he posted on his official website. You can check it out, and he's very happy about Lesnar returning. That could play a role in him returning to be at the side of Brock Lesnar. The friendship that himself and Brock Lesnar had back in 2003, 2004 when Lesnar was the champion. One of the most memorable storylines between Lesnar and Heyman was when Heyman turned on Brock Lesnar because he believed that Brock Lesnar wasn't living up to his expectation or his standards, playing the role of a Bobby Heenan in that time frame. I think that storyline between Lesnar and Heyman definitely changed the complexion of the entire WWE just as much as Lesnar's recent return did. Heyman and Lesnar provided us with so many memorable moments, and who's to say they won't do it again if Heyman does return. We are inviting our fans on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages to tell us what you think of this whole thing of Lesnar returning, Paul Heyman potentially returning to be his manager. You can tell us by joining the conversation on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HEW Entertainment, on our newly revamped YouTube channel with over 500 video archives at youtube.com Jonathan Clarke 22, and by following us on Twitter, you can leave us your opinion on Heyman's return. You'll be able to catch the show on Twitter and Facebook when it drops over the next couple of days at twitter.com/Jonathan Clarke 1 HEW Entertainment for additional details. All the archives of our audio show are in our radio form on our official website. So tell us what you think of Paul Heyman potentially returning. The last time we saw him on WWE television was in 2006, and the only glimpse of Heyman we get now is on this Heyman's Hustle show, which has a lot of archives all over the internet. They also have Facebook and Twitter. A lot of former talents in professional wrestling resorting to using social media now to hyperventilate, shoot, express their opinions and concerns on what professional wrestling really has become. Quick story here for you guys. I was on Facebook there the other day, and I got a friend's request from a fan page, and the fan was asking what had happened to professional wrestling, and I wish I had the answer for that fan who had created a fan page of the state of professional wrestling and what it had become for the last 20 years. I really wish I had an answer for that fan, and I really wish that I should have wrote him an email about my opinion about professional wrestling. You can find him on our official Facebook page. I would advise that fan to listen to the show because really I think all of us as radio show hosts, wrestling fans in general, there are millions of them, are wondering what happened to the Days of the Territories, are wondering what happened to things like ECW and WCW because we have no answer, no definite stamp of finality on what really happened to the wrestling industry. It definitely significantly changed with the implements of new talents like Kelly Kelly, Kofi Kingston, Evan Bourne, who became such a huge part of ECW. Who can forget CM Punk, who became the ECW champion quicker than any new talented initiative star. And really, in my opinion, when ECW started to suffer from a great downfall was when they made the ECW championship be on the shoulder of the Big Show, and the Big Show had to carry the ECW brand for a number of months, and then they started doing that with other wrestlers, having WWE stars rather than ECW stars be the champion of the ECW brand, a title that should have been left up for people like Sabu and Tommy Dreamer to capitalize on. Tommy Dreamer becoming the ECW champion a few years too late, in my opinion. He should have been one of the first ECW champions when the show was first relaunched under a new talent initiative, under a new time slot, and a whole lot of other variables. I think that when they started putting the ECW title on WWE names to have bigger draws at house shows and events, that is when we really started to see ECW significantly change and suffer from a huge downfall. A better documentary to really put this into perspective for you would be The Rise and Fall of ECW, which you can download from our torrent board. It is a huge documentary, and a huge part of history is looked at in that documentary because it really documents the different stages that ECW went through, their high points, their low points, and really put it into better perspective than I ever could or any other radio show host could. Those who were there to see ECW suffer from this great downfall that is still looked at as one of the most influential days in wrestling history could give you a better illustration of how ECW had its high points, how people became so inspired by ECW, and then it went to this tragic downfall in this state that nobody wanted to be a part of. It definitely documents the metamorphosis period that ECW went through, and it's definitely a better illustration than anybody, because I wasn't there for the downfall of ECW. I was like many of you. I was a fan watching it, but long before I ever started interviewing people like Pitbull, Gary Wolf, Rob Van Dam, the Sandman, and Sabu, who are great guys in my opinion. They've gotten into a lot of trouble with the law, and different circumstances have befallen them in their life, and it's played a significant role in the outcome of their wrestling career. And a lot of the stuff that happened in their personal life definitely suffered a huge blow and impacted their wrestling careers. The Sandman was one guy who ended up being arrested shortly, I believe it was shortly after ECW came back, and then he was fired because of a lot of things going on in his personal life. So I think that a lot of things happened, and they're very hard to explain. And in time, of course, I've said this time and time again, time is the most crucial element and the most crucial factor in anything. And in time, all these questions will be answered about Lesnar's return, if indeed Paul Heyman will be coming back, because right now we have no answer. We don't even have an answer as to why Brock Lesnar is back. Maybe he's back because he's sick like Batista was in 2010 of John Cena being the face of the company. Maybe he wants to challenge John Cena. Maybe he's back for a Batista match at WrestleMania 29, where I see it happening if it were to happen. Only time will tell. Time is the most precious commodity. Words spoken by WWE Chairman Vince McMahon in 2003 during an angle with Eric Bischoff. And time always expires, and time is the most precious commodity, and we sometimes don't value it. But within a couple of months, all this will be behind us, and we will finally have had the answer that we've been looking for over the last number of weeks since Lesnar's return first was announced. An offer was given to Lesnar a few years ago. He turned down WWE because of his UFC career going the way he wanted it, and when his career finally came to an end sooner than he would have wanted it to, he signed with WWE long term. I believe that if Lesnar's career didn't end in the UFC, and he was still the UFC champion, we would have never seen Brock Lesnar back with the company. We would still see The Rock coming in periodically to carry people like John Cena and Randy Orton, who need these legends to learn from them, to gain a lot of experience, and to have them put over. Everybody thought The Rock was coming in, going to pass the torch to John Cena. They fucked up on that assumption. I'm not saying that John Cena is not going to have the most successful year of his career, but he's been there over a decade. You would have think that if the torch were to have been passed to John Cena, it would have been passed by now, like The Rock passed the torch to Brock Lesnar, a star who was worthy back then of having the torch passed to him. And I'm sure if Heyman was here on the show, he would agree with that assumption. Definitely The Rock passed the torch a long time ago, and he passed it to Brock Lesnar. Maybe the proverbial torch being passed will be what this is all built around. The fact that Brock Lesnar passed the torch to The Rock rather than passing it to John Cena. John Cena will accuse Lesnar of that, and the storyline will be derived from it. Tell us what you think on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where it's all happening. Do what the video suggests. Watch us on YouTube with over 500 video archives, and our series taking a look at the return of Brock Lesnar has pretty much folded up right now and pretty much come to an end for now until we learn further developments on what's going on with Brock Lesnar. You can follow him on Twitter, join his conversation on his Facebook page, and WWE's Facebook page, with its millions of followers, has been generating a lot of conversational topics about Lesnar's return. WWE.com is heavily profiling this. They have a lot of graphics on their official website and a lot of articles about it because it's the first time we have seen Lesnar in almost a decade. It's almost been 10 years since Lesnar has returned, and I can't remember a wrestler being away from the wrestling industry for that long and coming back so suddenly when nobody thought it was ever possible. The only explanation I have as to why the fans were chanting, "We want Lesnar," at the conclusion of this past Monday's Raw is because a lot of fans saw him entering the arena when they weren't supposed to. Lesnar becoming very public. Probably WWE screwed up on that. The Daniel Bryan chants and the Lesnar chants were some of the biggest pops for the night after WrestleMania, and something that will be looked back at in the archives of WWE for some time to come. And it's really interesting, everything now about Brock Lesnar, and then different rumors coming from everything that's happened over the last 6 days. Periodically different rumors have been released. Who Lesnar's going to feud with is kind of up in the air right now. If it's not John Cena, people are saying Sheamus, Randy Orton. Kane's another one. Randy Orton is someone I can see having a lot of good chemistry with Brock Lesnar. I really do see that getting over, and it's interesting reading a lot of your assumptions and a lot of your conclusions that you're coming up with for this Lesnar thing, because Lesnar could pretty much work with anybody in the wrestling business, but it's only going to take a matter of weeks before we find out. We'll probably find out this Monday where we're going to go with this Brock Lesnar thing. But until then, it's kind of up in the air, and we are inviting our Facebook fans, the people listening to us on YouTube and Twitter, keeping up with everything happening here for our video archives and the show, to tell us who you think is going to be working with Brock Lesnar. Who's going to put Brock Lesnar over the top? Will it indeed be John Cena, or will it be one of the new talent initiative stars, people that Lesnar has never had the opportunity to work with? The cool thing about this is Lesnar's going to have the opportunity to work with people like Sheamus and people he hasn't had the opportunity to work with before. And he's going to be one of the guys who's really going to help get this new talent initiative over the top. He's not a new talent initiative star. He was one of the greatest